Signs of a negative soul tie can look like this. You leave conversations confused. You replay what was said over and over. You question whether you were wrong, even when you know deep down that you weren't. You second guess yourself more after being around them. You feel guilty for growing, like your healing is inconvenient, like your boundaries are too much, like your maturity makes other people uncomfortable. You start people pleasing, saying yes when you mean no, softening your opinion so there's no tension, agreeing just to keep things smooth. You find yourself walking on eggshells, carefully choosing words, avoiding certain topics, managing their emotions so nothing blows up. Hey girlfriend, welcome to Her Redemption Story. If you've ever felt stuck, carrying weight you weren't meant to, or wondered if God could make something new out of your story, you're in the right place. I'm Morgan, a wife, a storyteller, and faith-led encourager walking this journey with you. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive into today's episode because your redemption story starts here. Hey family, welcome back to Her Redemption Story. If you're new here, I'm Morgan, and this is a safe space for Christian women healing from toxic relationships, soul ties, and the emotional confusion that comes with it. Okay, real quick, before we get into anything, if this podcast has been helping you feel clearer, calmer, or less alone, would you take literally 5 seconds and follow the show? It helps more women find it. That's it. And of course, as always, stay with me until the end because I'm going to be giving you some actual practical steps that you can start implementing and doing today so that it will bring clarity without chaos. It's not big decisions, not a dramatic confrontation, just one mature step. Okay. If you've listened to the previous episodes, you know we talked about unhealthy soul ties in romantic relationships. And I made that episode for the woman who is still inside it, still trying to understand why it feels so hard to detach. But today, I widen the lens a little bit more because sometimes it's not just him. And I said that in that episode that it can be family, friends, sometimes environments that you've been surrounded by for years. So before we go deeper, I just want to check in with you for a second because if after that episode you felt quieter, heavier, like something shifted or changed, but you didn't really want to actually look at it, I get it. That's your heart waking up. That's your discernment starting to develop, and that can feel really scary. So let's breathe. So here's the big idea for today. Not everyone who loves you is safe to influence you, and not everyone who feels familiar is healthy for your future. This episode is not about judging people. This is not about cutting everyone off. This is not about burning bridges. This episode is about influence because unhealthy soul ties form when someone has emotional access to you, shapes how you think, feel, or see yourself. Unhealthy soul ties form when someone pulls you away from clarity, peace, or obedience to God. And sometimes that influence is loud, but most of the time it's quiet, it's subtle, it's something that you slowly adapt to. So we're going to get into why family and friend ties are harder to see. So family and friend soul ties are harder to see for numerous reasons. But number one is because they've been there forever. They were shaping you before you had language for boundaries, before you knew what discernment even was. And let me explain that clearly. Discernment is the ability to tell the difference between what feels normal and what is actually healthy. It's that quiet inner awareness that says something about this does not feel right, or this feels steady and peaceful or stable. It's not judging, it's not suspicion, it's not assuming the worst. It's pausing and asking, God, is this aligned with you? What is this off feeling that I'm getting? And if you weren't taught how to do that growing up, of course this feels confusing right now because loyalty gets confused with obedience. I'm gonna repeat that. Hold up. Loyalty gets confused with obedience. You start thinking, if I set a boundary, I'm dishonoring them. If I say no, I'm being ungrateful. If I change, I'm being selfish. But that's not always the truth. Sometimes that's just what you got used to. Sometimes that's a pattern that you learned to survive. Sometimes that's behavior that you adapted to so that things wouldn't explode. And when something gets repeated long enough, it starts to feel automatic. Not because it's right, but because it's familiar. And familiar dysfunction can start feeling normal. Not because you want it, but because you've been around it for so long that it feels like life. And if this is hard for you, it doesn't mean that you're rebellious. It means that you're becoming aware. And I can't say that enough because awareness is finally bringing the clarity, and awareness is the beginning of wisdom. So Psalm 1, if you actually read the entire Psalm 1, it talks about walking, standing, sitting. You don't wake up stuck. You walk in something. You linger in it. And eventually you settle in. And the one who delights in God is like a tree planted. So that's saying stable, rooted, not constantly confused. That's what God wants for you. Stability. The enemy wants you confused and in fear and living in constant chaos. So now we're going to get into signs of a negative soul tie. So now I'm going to give you the signs, and I want you to really receive this. Not defensively, not scanning for who to cut off, but listening so you can truly understand what might be influencing you. This is about clarity, not reaction. Signs of a negative soul tie can look like this. You leave conversations confused. You replay what was said over and over. You question whether you were wrong, even when you know deep down that you weren't. You second guess yourself more after being around them. You feel guilty for growing, like your healing is inconvenient, like your boundaries are too much, like your maturity makes other people uncomfortable. You start people pleasing, saying yes when you mean no, softening your opinion so there's no tension, agreeing just to keep things smooth. You find yourself walking on eggshells, carefully choosing words, avoiding certain topics, managing their emotions so nothing blows up. You feel drained after interactions, not just tired. No, you feel drained, heavy, like something was pulled out of you. You feel subtle pressure to go back to an older version of yourself, the version that was quieter, more agreeable, less clear, less healed. You feel like your growth creates distance, and instead of being celebrated, it feels resisted. And slowly, you don't feel pulled forward into who you're becoming, into your healing. You feel pulled backward into who you were. That doesn't automatically mean that they're a bad person. It means that the tie has influence. And influence produces fruit, and that's why 1 Corinthians 15:33. This is one of my all-time, I have a ton of all-time favorite scriptures, but this one really, in the very beginning of my walk, this one was one of my anchor go-to scriptures. Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good morals or good character. So corrupt means slowly wears down. Not overnight, slowly. That's why this matters, because you'll never even notice it. You'll blink, and next thing you know, you have been so corrupted over a long period of time, and you never even realized that that was what was happening. And Psalm 1 brings this to life. This is where scripture makes this so clear. Psalm 1 talks about the person who is blessed, and it uses this progression. It says, blessed is the one who does not walk, stand, sit in a certain influence. And that matters because it shows you something. Most people don't wake up one day stuck. They don't wake up one day confused. It happens in steps. You walk in it, you stand in it, and eventually you sit in it. And Psalm 1 says, the person who delights in God's ways is like a tree planted by streams of water. A tree planted, so that means stable, rooted, not tossed around by emotion, not constantly confused, not constantly trying to explain themselves. And that's what God wants for you. Not chaos, not fear, not extremes. He wants stability for you. So now we're going to go into signs of a negative soul tie. And I want you to really receive this. This is not about labeling someone as evil. It's about noticing what the tie produces in you. So, signs of a negative soul tie can look like you feel confused after being around them, you second guess yourself more, you feel guilty for growing, you feel pressure to keep the peace at your expense, you feel emotionally drained, heavy, weighed down after leaving or spending time with them. Your healing feels threatening to them. You feel pulled backwards instead of forward. You fall into people pleasing and walking on eggshells. And this doesn't automatically mean they're a bad person. It means that the tie is influencing you in ways God may be asking you to look at. And this is exactly why 1 Corinthians 15:33 is so perfect for this. Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good morals or good character. Let me explain that. Do not be misled means you can drift without realizing. Corrupts means slowly erodes. Not overnight, not instantly, slowly erodes. So the Bible isn't being dramatic. It's warning you that influence changes you, even when your intentions are pure, even when their intentions might be pure. Toxic influence, sometimes it's unintentional. Pain passes pain. Someone can love you and still harm you. Someone can mean well and still pull you off course. Someone can want you close but not want you whole. And here's why this matters. If you think it's about bad people, you'll either stay in denial or go to extremes. But if you understand it's about influence, fruit, and alignment, you can respond maturely. And for me, this actually happened. I have an amazing best friend who I've been best friends with since second grade. And I hate to even admit this, but she actually ended up having to tell me after probably 14 years of being best friends and having each other in our lives that she needed to distance herself from me and she could no longer be my friend anymore. Of course, it was extremely heartbreaking. I was so confused. I was angry, of course. I felt really betrayed, and I went through a lot of different emotions during that time. But that was at the time that I was also in addiction. And honestly, I didn't understand because I didn't see that it was impacting her and affecting her as badly and as much as it was. But it really was. I was so blinded by all of the distractions and things I had going on in my own life that I couldn't actually see how much of a bad influence and how much of an impact that I was making on her personally. And it really hurt. And for probably, I think it was like 2 or 3 years. And I could be wrong. I think it was that long though. If it wasn't that long, it definitely felt like years that I didn't have her in my life. And it actually took my dad being transferred from nursing homes from his disease, and he was actually was on hospice, so we knew I was getting ready to lose him. And my transmission went out in my vehicle, and I actually went on Facebook and I posted, could someone please give me a ride? I just need to go and be with my dad and grieve without my trying to be strong for my family members. This is the first time that I've actually even done that. And she actually reached out to me and said that she would go and take me over there. And we hadn't spoke since she told me we weren't going to be friends. So I'm sure me and her both were like, oh my goodness, this is going to be very awkward. But it was so incredible. She was still the same person that she was when we grew up. And I told her after I got healed and saved and really started my walk with God. And I apologized for everything that I put her through. And I to this day do not understand how she continued to be best friends with me and keep me so close, even though her family did not want me to be an influence in her life, because I really was not a good person to have around. She never gave up on me, not in elementary, middle school, none of it. And then in high school, we kind of just parted our own ways because we were in different classes and different things like that. But we always stayed close, even in high school. But when I graduated, I, of course, ended up getting worse. And then I was in these toxic relationships and things like that. So she couldn't keep holding on if I was constantly not being a benefit in her life. So she had to do what she had to do. So anyway, 3 years later or whatever, and being there at the nursing home with me, I mean, I'll never forget it. She allowed me to grieve. She didn't want me to be any certain way. She didn't want to talk about anything. She just literally wanted to be the person who was there for me during that extremely devastating, heartbreaking time. And she's seen my dad since he was diagnosed with the disease. I mean, she was my best friend. She has been my best friend since second grade. So we have really been through the thick of it together, and I really put her through a lot. And during all of that, and then her coming back, and she was seeing that I was trying to change, and it was really awesome. And I believe that all of that with my dad ended up happening at the perfect timing that it did, because at the time that we went to the nursing home, I had just quit smoking weed and was going to smoking these like CBD cigarettes. So I really was trying to wean myself off. And if I wanted to have something to smoke, I really wanted something that was just going to calm me and give me the same effects without getting me high. And she let me pull that thing out, and I was smoking them cigarette things, and she didn't say anything. But I think she was, and I don't know this because she never mentioned it, but I think she probably was like, oh wow, this is a step. Okay, I see you. But we didn't like right off the jump become best friends or anything like that again. It definitely took me really leaving what I was in and the environments, and me really changing for her to allow me back into her close circle. And then when I finally got to a point where I was trying to make amends with everyone that I had wronged, that was when we became best friends again. And even when it came to when I got proposed to, I wanted her to be my bridesmaid because that was something that we planned our whole life, and it was absolutely incredible. She has showed up and showed out, and I couldn't be more grateful for the positive influence and impact that she made on me at a young age all the way up through adulthood. And I sadly have to say that I was not that for her. And it's hard. It really is hard because I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to be such a negative person and such a negative impact on her. But thank God that her faith was unwavering at the time that I was in her life. And nothing that I was doing ever influenced her in any way. She was still solid. Like, she knew she was not gonna allow me and my decisions and my lifestyle to rub off on her, and she was gonna continue to try and be the person that I'm sure she believed that I needed, and I did. But you cannot save everyone. You will kill yourself trying to be that for everyone and trying to keep those destructive people in your life. And yes, it may be a huge impact in a positive way on them, but at the same time, you really have to have some serious discernment, because I have seen time and time again, even as close as I am in my walk and in my faith. You have to make sure that you are impacting others and you're not being poisoned by others. Because I didn't understand when I was trying to be there for those ones that I should have set boundaries with and should have definitely said no to instead of yes, and people pleasing and trying to save them. They have to get to their own place to be able to even receive what the influence and the impact that you're trying to make and be in their life. And only you know who and what that is and what that looks like. So she was absolutely incredible for me, but I was incredibly horrible for her. And I mean that. So now we're going to go into family soul ties specifically. Family soul ties can look like parents who rely on you emotionally, family members who mock your growth, environments where boundaries create guilt, feeling responsible for everyone's emotions, being punished when you say no, being labeled as you've changed when you get healthy. And I want to say a truth that may bring some relief. God does not ask you to sacrifice your healing to keep family comfortable. Let me say that again. God does not ask you to sacrifice your healing, your sanity, your security, your stability, your peace to keep family comfortable. He doesn't. That does not mean dishonor. It doesn't mean you're disloyal. It doesn't mean that you hate them. It means maturity and it's wisdom. And Proverbs 13:20 says something so simple but so strong. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. So walk with the wise means consistent closeness shapes you. Companion of fools, obviously, unwise patterns influence you. Suffers harm means you don't stay neutral. You are impacted and affected, whether you like it or not, whether you want to admit it or not. So if you keep pouring yourself into a situation that constantly drains you, confuses you, or pulls you away from obedience, you're not being loving, you're being depleted. And depleted people don't heal well. And now we're going to get into friendships and social circles. Friendships matter more than people admit because environment shapes behavior. Friend ties can look like friends tied to an old version of you, friends who benefit from you staying stuck, friends where dysfunction is normal, being the strong one for everyone, always being the emotional dumping ground, feeling anxious before you even respond to them. And here's a reframe. Outgrowing doesn't mean that you're better. It doesn't mean that. It means that you're different. You're on a different level than them. You're now going in a different direction than them, and that is perfectly fine. It means that God is doing something new in you, and not everybody can access the new version of you. Not because you're above them, but because access is earned through wisdom, respect, and fruit. And Galatians 5:9 says, a little leaven leavens the whole lump, meaning a little influence affects the whole environment. So if you're trying to build a peaceful, obedient life with God, you have to take influence seriously, even small influences. Now we're going to get back into romantic partners. So, a quick bridge from the previous episodes. Romantic ties can feel intense because of emotional dependency, trauma bonding, confusing intensity with intimacy, staying because of history and not health. And here's the connection to today. If someone has the power to shape your nervous system, your thinking, or your identity, that's a soul tie worth paying attention to. And you don't have to be ashamed of that. Awareness is not shame, awareness is wisdom. So listen, this is crucial. This episode is not about immediate decisions. This is about inviting God into discernment. You don't have to act yet. Awareness comes before actions. Romans 12:2 tells us, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. So that means you don't have to force overnight change. You renew, you rebuild, and you begin to see clearly. And here's what discernment looks like. Ask God who currently has influence. Notice how you feel after interactions. Pay attention to the fruit. Ask God to highlight what is unhealthy. Give yourself permission to pause before reacting. And I really need you to hear this. God is not rushing you. He is leading and guiding you. If you feel overwhelmed hearing this, if you feel grief, if you feel heavy, Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted." That means right now. He is not far away. He's near. In Matthew 11:28, "Come to me all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." So if you're tired of carrying relationships that cost your peace, that is an invitation for you. And I need to say this. This is for your heart and your healing. This is not for perfection or performance, because this is between you and God. So let's definitely dive into some reflection questions. You can write these down or you can just sit with them. Who do I feel most like myself around? Who leaves me feeling confused or heavy? Where do I feel pressured to stay the same? What relationships make obedience to God harder? Who brings peace into my life, not just comfort? And here are the steps for you to take today. Not big, not dramatic. This is maturity and wisdom. Number 1 is notice. Clearly, that's a theme in these episodes. Notice and don't judge, just observe. Number 2, create emotional space if needed. That can look like not over-explaining, not oversharing, not being as available. Number 3, pray before reacting, even for 10 seconds. Number 4, ask God for wisdom. Not courage yet, because you don't need courage for decisions you're not making today. You need wisdom for clarity. Right now, you need peace of mind. And let me go ahead and recap what we covered today. Not everyone who loves you is safe to influence you. Familiar doesn't always mean healthy. Negative soul ties can be family, friends, environments, and romantic. This isn't about cutting people off. This is about discernment, maturity, wisdom, and renewing your mind with God. And your one step this week is really simple. I want you to make 2 columns. Column number 1, who has the most influence over me right now? And column number 2, what do I feel after I'm around them? That's it. Awareness, clarity, no chaos. And as always, if you want something tangible to help you process all of this without any overwhelm, because I know I throw a lot at you guys with bringing all of these things to the surface, I've created listener notes just for you. It's not homework, it's not a workbook, just something that you can read, reflect on, and write your prayers and thoughts down. All I do is take all of this from the episode and plop it down in there so that it's less work and less stress. Because I know a lot of us have busy everyday lives, family situations, all kinds of stuff. And the last thing that I want is for you to leave questioning and wondering, oh my goodness, she just told me all this and bringing all this up to me. And now what do I even do? So it's there for you, already created. Grab them through the link in the description. I love you. I am so proud of you. I am praying for you, and I'm cheering you on. Hey girlfriend, I hope you loved today's episode. If it encouraged you, share it with a friend who might need a reminder that God's not done with their story, and leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts. It lights me up knowing that this show is helping you. I'll see you back every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Central for another episode. So bye for now. Go live your redemption story.